Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the Getting Over podcast. They come round fast, but sometimes it seems like it's been a while. We're talking about what happened, the predictions last time. Do we crown a new champion? Tune in and find out. We're also talking about predictions for this time, and this one's a special one because not one, but two of our podcast members are going to be in attendance at Clash at the Castle. Find out what we think is going to happen. Find out what's going to be going on in the wrestling world, what's been going on in the wrestling world, and everything in between. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Drop in reviews you want to drop. And if you've got a wrestling fan in your life, slide this podcast over to them and let them enjoy it as well. Right, let's get going. So here we go. This is CookieCast Getting Over.
Recording in progress.
Welcome just a little bit more to the only place to get your wrestling fix on CookieCast, the Getting Over podcast. We've reached episode number 47, and this month we're here to see how the team fared with the SummerSlam predictions and just how we'll fare with Clash at the Castle predictions for this coming weekend. Speaking of the team, let me introduce them to you. So we have the top dog of CookieCast itself, Mr. Andy Cook.
Hi.
Football podcast host, Mr. Paul Williams.
Good evening, everybody.
And podcast regular and the man I will be attending Clash at the Castle with live and in person, Mr. Matthew Moore. How are we all, gents? All good?
All good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Excellent. Good. So, we'll start where we always do, with a predictions title. And coming into SummerSlam, it was a bit of a shocker because Paul was actually champion. And, I mean, this is almost, I think it's probably only the second time maybe in the history of the podcast. I think.
There'll be the Paul Williams equivalent listener who has got all the stats of the title history, and I'll be able to go back through it and work out. But I'm pretty sure I won one of the early rounds and then again. So,
well, Stats Monkeys, do your business. You can send us that in if you can. But yeah, Paul was champion. But would the hot streak continue? We did have some tinkering to the card. Riddle was unable to compete, even though him and Seth Rollins still had a bit of a scuffle, like mid-event. But it did reduce our maximum possible points from 9 to 8. And with that being said, it was one of the closest predictions battles we have ever seen on the podcast. And the scores are as such. If I tell you that 3 of the team finished on 6 out of 8, that'll tell you just how close this was. The question is, which 3? I mean, clearly me, because I am always last at this game. So I was one of the 6. Matt was another. And so was Paul. So Paul finished on 6 points. But does that mean Andy got 7 and won? Of course he did. It's Andy, isn't it? He always wins the predictions. So we're back to form, ladies and gentlemen, with a whopping 7 out of 8, adding to that legendary predictions record. Congratulations, Mr. Andy Cook.
what's even better is now that they've made the switch to the Velcro on the back of the titles, that actually sounded like it was an actual title change there, when he ripped it open and just thrust it across his shoulder.
We're still talking about the...
Just prized it from Paul's hand.
He's coming up to that Ric Flair record surely soon.
Oh, I think we're way past 16 title changes and 16 reigns at this point.
Ric Flair's got nothing on Andy Cook, is the... I think that's the T-shirt, gents, right there. That is the T-shirt.
But is there then the argument that you could say that like old Flair used to say, just because he's won it 16 times means that he's lost it 16 times. So.
I'm still impressed that title's actually holding up after all this time.
It never leaves the house, does it?
It's not got
It's not got many miles on it.
Oh, you don't know
Probably used to plough someone in the face or something like that.
But the sheer amount of minutes that took to put together is the is the key factor in the longevity query. Anyway, news time. Returns. Last time out on the pod, we did ask the question, where does Triple H go now that he's got the creative control? Would he stick with the hand that he had? Or would he try and get back some of the talent that was formerly released whilst he was out on his health scare by the old regime? Well, we certainly got some of those answers now. Since the last podcast, we have seen quite the number of returns. Karrion Kross and Scarlett being thrown straight into the Universal title picture by taking out Drew McIntyre on SmackDown. Hit Row, or 3/4 of them at least, because one of them is signed to AEW. They returned to SmackDown also. Johnny Gargano has made his Raw debut. And then there's also the talk of the likes of Braun Strowman and possibly Bray Wyatt returning on the horizon. So, I mean, what do we think of the returns? I'm assuming everybody's happy.
Yeah, I think obviously the Gargano one's probably the least surprising of the lot. Obviously, he was regarded as one of Triple H's boys, wasn't he? So I think that one was always pretty much likely to happen as soon as Triple H was given the reins, so to speak. Probably most excited about the Karrion Kross one because I feel like they massively dropped the ball when they let him go in the first place, and Scarlett's a huge part of the package with him anyway. So why she wasn't brought to the main roster with him in the first place is just baffling. So
yeah,
that's a massive part of the package.
Couldn't let that lie. Anyway, but yeah, no, I agree with Paul. Karrion Kross is definitely probably literally the biggest return as well out of all of those. Certainly deserves better than what he got the first time around. If you haven't seen any of it recently, you'll be pleased to know that there is no leather gladiator outfit in sight this time around, and seemingly has been given sort of control of how he wants his character to develop. So, and the fact that he's back to do his bidding is. I
think that was the thing. Like last time, it was the kind of case with a lot of the ones that had come up from NXT. It was kind of like it's like someone sat there and thought, right, let's destroy everything that NXT's done by repackaging everybody who comes up to the roster by either renaming them or giving them a daft gimmick or, completely changing who they are. I know, like, the Scarlett thing was some health problem or something like that had to be addressed as well. But, like, sending him up, changing his ring attire, changing any promos that he did, whereas they've just gone back to what made him intriguing in the first place. And, the annoying thing is that, it sounds awful, I hope they don't bring Braun Strowman back, because he's not a very good wrestler, and the kind of concept of him is not particularly interesting, for me, anyway. I think there's plenty of people that can do what he does better, but you kind of think, he could be that kind of big, Kross could be the big person to challenge Reigns, as long as they do it right. I think that's the thing for me. It's got to kind of, and by what they've done so far, it looks like they're going to do it right. People I'd throw into the kind of thing that I'm glad that it's kind of insinuated that they were released and then brought back, but they'd obviously not been seen on TV for a while, is Dakota Kai and
Io Sky.
Whatever her name is, Io Sky or something like that. And aligning them with Bayley as well was a smart move, I think.
Oh, we'll get to that. We will get to that. Yeah, agree with those as well. Dakota Kai was probably the most surprising one for me. I've seen a few reports and stuff saying that 24 hours before SummerSlam was when she got the call, and there she was, completely unemployed. She had been released And then 24 hours later, there she is walking down the aisle with Bayley, and then one of the biggest names in NXT's women's division, and probably of all time, never to have, at that point, made the main roster. And let's not forget that Io Sky is fucking mental. Like, she is the woman that jumped off the top of a cage inside a bin. So she's not scared of, like, putting herself about to kind of get the views.
It's a very PC way to put it, Stu.
But yeah, she's certainly an interesting character, and I think now that she's got that chance on the main roster, there's definitely more to come from that 3. Okay, so speaking of the returns, we also have the return of first names. As recently, Matt Riddle has been given his mat back, and so has Austin Theory. So we can actually call them by the names that people know them and not have to spend all podcast tripping up over it anymore. So that is great news for me, particularly. But yeah, it just makes sense. Although it's probably not great for the people who make the gear, because they've probably now got to make an absolute shit ton of new stuff again. Yeah.
I don't think it'll matter really, because it's not as if the gear's going to be obsolete, is it? It's still got the main information they need on it.
Depends if it's Matt Hardy's gear, I suppose. Anyway, so yeah, as we always have to talk about releases every podcast, it's not just about returns this time, as there have been some releases. But this comes in the form of the announcement that NXT UK, as we know it, is due to close. So it's being rebranded. It's going to become NXT Europe, to be launched sometime next year. They weren't very specific with the release. But in the meantime, a number of notable names have been let go, including Shah Samuels, Nina Samuels, Primate, Ashton Smith, Dave Mastiff, Flash Morgan Webster, Wild Boar, Jack Stars, and Matt's personal favourite, Mark Andrews, and Eddie Dennis as well was another name. So there has been a few more. That's not an extensive list, but a lot of the more recognisable names from NXT UK have seemingly gone. If they haven't gone, they've been dragged over to the States for the weekend that the rest of the roster is in the UK, which is bizarre, to do the NXT Worlds Collide event on Sunday, which is basically the absorption of every NXT UK title into the main NXT brand, where Tyler Bates is going to be going up against Bron Breakker. There's a triple threat match for both the NXT UK and NXT women's titles. I'm not sure if anything's been announced for the tags yet, but I'm sure that'll happen as well. Even though the tag titles are possibly the NXT UK tag titles are possibly the nicest looking titles in all of wrestling at the moment, and they're probably going to go. So hopefully they'll keep something similar when the Europe arm launches. But I guess we shall see. How do you feel about the NXT UK thing?
It's a bizarre one because for me it never really. Unfortunately, it was launched right before the pandemic, or not long before the pandemic, and it was kind of like the proper week by week kind of thing. Obviously, there's been bits before, and so it never really kind of hit the ground running. And then with all the changes going on, there was still like that lack of kind of thing. And I think it's one of those ones where I know they signed an exclusive deal with BT Sport to show the wrestling, and if it would have been, and it would have been, they would have signed with Sky if they hadn't signed with BT. It was something that needed to be on proper telly, and by proper telly I mean like gas telly. I mean whatever's on your free for you box. And I know like ITV have signed with have got AEW, but it should have been somewhere where it can be on TV, and I think it just lost that kind of luster. And unfortunately, a lot of the main protagonists kept on getting injured, so Eddie Dennis never got a really good run because it was a one pec, then another pec, then another injury, and then they kept on trying stuff. So Tyler Bate was in and out of it. they took kind of Gunther away, or Walter, Dragunov got injured. It'll be interesting to see how many of the ones that have been released are then brought back into the Europe one. I don't think it's going to be as so exclusively UK, because it wasn't that anyway. Because obviously they'd added Walter, Gunther, they'd added Ilya Dragunov, they'd added Tierman, who was Lucky Kids before. There was more. It was skewing that kind of Europe way. I don't know European wrestling particularly well. I know there's a lot of the WXW wrestlers that obviously they're similar to Progress and ICW over here. They're under the umbrella of owned by WWE, but not owned by WWE, but are WWE bitches, basically. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. It's not going to be every single person who was in the NXT UK roster sign back, but some of the higher performers will probably go back into that pool. It just won't be the free for all. I feel sorry for some wrestlers though, because there was some of them. I think like when I went to see North the first time it was back, I can't remember when that was. It wasn't that long ago, and Lizzie Evo, that was like a Scouse wrestler. She literally just signed for NXT UK, and so she's literally been there months, like 3 or 4 months, and then released. So there's people who've joined NXT UK probably thinking they were set up for a bit, and then are now back on the indies, or back trying to possibly having to find a job, which is kind of pretty difficult for them.
And as you kind of alluded to right at the beginning, it's because of the change in circumstances at the top. I think that it would have probably been put on the back burner, and NXT UK would have probably ticked along, as slow pace as it might have been, just until they finally decided, we'll do that Europe thing now. Vince McMahon whatever. Whereas it seems to be more of, because it's a Triple H baby, it seems to be more a priority, and to almost to create as much change as they possibly can now to get everything freshened up, rather than doing it in stages, which you can understand like why they want to separate it. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with them expanding it into Europe. It's just a little disappointing that they've had to almost close it completely rather than just adapting it, and that would have been the difference for me. I feel like that they've probably taken it as an opportunity to get some of the people that maybe didn't want to go to the States full time to go over there and perform. There will be people that will have had that on their list of ambitions or whatever, but there are people that probably aren't ready for that have now been dragged into it. The Blair Davenport, but yeah, we'll see. I think Tyler Bate will take to it like a fish to water. He's got that experience already.
He's one of them ones that you're thinking, I'm surprised he wasn't there already. I don't know why he's not been. Pandemic kind of aside, I'm surprised that he hasn't been put over there already. I thought it was, when Dunn went over there, I thought it was going to be weeks, if not a month or so, that he was soon over there as well. And then we're like 2-3 years down the line, and it's only just happened, kind of thing. I thought that would happen quicker.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. He's the sort of the surprise one for me. Like, and then obviously when it came out that all the changes were being made, that was the least surprising of a lot, that he was obviously being kept on. And I don't know if it's a case of if they've asked him to relocate and he's already just agreed to it or what. But I'd be very surprised if he's not one of the mainstays in NXT moving forward.
I think the one of the main ones I worry about, and obviously it's pending what happens with his injury, but Dragunov I think could very easily fall almost into that Cesaro category, in the sense of he can go as good as anybody in the ring, but his promos might not quite cut it in that particular market. So I think he's got a bit of a layoff.
I don't know though, because his English is pretty good, from what I've heard and stuff like that.
And Mr. Five Languages Cesaro can cut
But
that.
I don't think that was ever a case of his English not being very good. It was just obviously his style of delivery and things like that just didn't suit with what Vince liked.
That will be the problem with Dragunov, though. I think his delivery will be... His promos are weird. You know, and I don't mind them, but I think they might be too quirky for an American audience, which is obviously thing, yeah.
You never know, I suppose. Like, obviously, he's the whole like sort of current situation, shall we say, probably not playing into his arms very much. But
if he is not the focus point of NXT Europe when it launches, I will be very surprised. Put it that way.
I was going to say, well, do you reckon he's another one where, like, obviously, I don't know what the extent of his injury is at the minute. Obviously, he's so badly about to take the title off him, but. Do you reckon it's one of those coaches where he's reluctant to move to the States because he's fairly settled here or wherever it is that he lives currently?
I mean, he has done a bit for him back and forth again, hasn't he? And I think he's probably done more at this stage in his WWE run than Walter did when he was on the way up. But
well, wasn't there loads of stuff about him at the time that he was? The whole point of why he was still in NXT UK was because of the reason he didn't want to move to America.
Yeah, Walter. Yeah. That's obviously been ironed out now with a few. Yeah. Anyway, we shall move on. We'll see how that one. Keep an eye on that one and see how it progresses. So the last thing really on the news I have this time is the resurrection of the women's tag titles. They are now back in play. Vacant is no longer the champions, and the new champions are Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah. They bested Io Sky and Dakota Kai in the tournament finals to take the vacant titles. It's the first titles on the main roster for Raquel and for Aaliyah, and very well deserved for me. Particularly Raquel, big fan of her. Io and Dakota probably would have been an obvious choice for the new champions. But they're really heavily invested in the Raw Women's title storyline going forward now, which is clearly going to play out with Bayley and Bianca. And having Raquel and Aaliyah have these titles, it kind of opens the door a little bit for maybe some of the women a little bit lower down the card. So hopefully we'll get some more widespread stories rather than harking back to when Sasha and Bayley had the main titles and the tag titles. But we shall see. But with the return of the women's tag titles, I don't think it'll be too long now before we see Naomi and Sasha make that sort of ever promised return now. It seemingly keeps getting mentioned every 10 seconds. So that's pretty much it for the news this time around. Just before we go into the predictions, we'll just take a minute to say thank you very much to those of you who have jumped on the subscriber competition. I have seen a little bit of movement in the last few weeks on the subscribers, so thank you very, very much for that. So for those of you that have, you are now safely in the draw for one of these because they have finally arrived. If you're not watching on YouTube, get yourself over. So like I said, we have one for the new subscribers since we launched the competition, and we have another. So if you've been subscribing for a while, you do have a second chance as well on one of those. So the Alexa Bliss pops are in the house. They are just waiting to be given away. So if you're not aware of how to do this, get yourself onto YouTube, have a little search for your Cookie Cast, and just click the subscribe button. And then click like on as many videos as well if you want while you're there. And then share it with all your friends. And subscribe. So thank you very much. So, Clash at the Castle this weekend feels like it was booked 100 years ago at this point, and even though we're only a matter of days away, it still feels like a long way away to me. I can't really compute the fact that there's a stadium show with over 60,000 tickets sold at this point happening at the weekend. I'm probably not computing that for the fact that me and Matt have got about a 5.5 hour drive first thing Saturday morning as well, which is a little bit of a not a worry, but it's not going to 5.5 hours at that time in the morning. Great. But yeah, it is a first for the podcast because it is the first pay-per-view premium live event that we've covered where some of the members will actually be in attendance live, so that is pretty good. So WWE is heading to Wales, and for those of you that have been sleeping under a rock, it's the first stadium show since SummerSlam 1992, and I'm way too excited about it.
I saw a thing that said it was the first one in 30 years, and I was like, that's got to be a typo. I can't believe it. And they were saying there's been little shows here and there and stuff, but it's the first actual show in 30 years.
Yeah, so they used to do UK only pay-per-views, because some of my first forays into going to see it live, it was always either the tour leading up to the UK only pay-per-view, which would be Rebellion or Insurrection, or actually going. I've been to Rebellion in Manchester in 2002, and then Insurrection when it was in Newcastle in 2003, possibly, I think it was. But they were only ever put out as almost like DVD extras. It was the ones that shall not be spoken of in the main sort of story arc. If a title change happened on those cards, it generally then was changed back again by the end of the same show. Obviously, the hardcore title was notorious for that. I believe the first ever show that I went to was a house show at the NEC in Birmingham, WWE show, obviously, and the hardcore title was on the card that night. It did change hands approximately 6 times, and the person who walked into the match as title holder walked out of the match as title holder. So obviously those were never recorded as official reigns. It was just for the crowd in attendance. Stuff like that used to happen all the time on those shows, but this time is different. So if a title changes hands, that shit sticks. That is going to be on TV for the whole world to see. Probably at some really weird times for the Americans, but for once, see how we like it.
And
go on.
I don't know if I'm jumping in and you're going to cover this. For the people in the UK, it's actually been made not available to all. You still need a subscription to it, but it's not on BT pay-per-view. Obviously, it'll be available on the WWE network, but it's actually available on BT Sport 1, I believe, just as BT Sport 2. But obviously, you need to have the BT subscription to be able to view it, but it's just available on standard subscription, no pay-per-view or pay-per-premium live, or whatever the word was.
So yeah, it is, as Paul says, it is still available on the network. So if you do have the network subscription, you'll be able to watch it on there as well, as it happens. But seeing as me and Matt will actually be there, is that going to help us in the predictions? Nah, probably not. We'll find out next time, but we'll get to that. So, as always, the match information is taken from WWE.com and is correct at the time of us recording the podcast. We will get stuck into a 6-match card that's set to unfold in Cardiff's Principality Stadium this coming weekend. The first match I have on my list is Edge and Rey Mysterio versus the Judgment Day. So the Judgment Day are now back to full strength with a return to action of Rhea Ripley. But could that number yet increase? The pursuit of Dominic Mysterio hasn't slowed down in recent weeks, and the youngster's seemingly growing frustration that he's not in this match, having been replaced by Edge following his return. This also puts back together a tag team from the early 2002, 2004 kind of era of SmackDown, because Edge and Rey Mysterio have been SmackDown tag team champions previously, so a little bit of a callback there. But also Edge has got the beef that he was kicked out of Judgment Day. Dominic needed convincing that Edge being in the match was the right move and had to be calmed down backstage, but still seems to be a little bit of willy won't kind of thing going on. But he has agreed to be in his dad's corner this weekend. So, whose side is Dominic really on? And what do we think is going to happen in this match, gentlemen? Paul, do you want to go first?
I don't know with this one. this is a proper 50-50 shot for me. I'm probably edging on the side of Edge and Rey Mysterio because they might err on the side of, is this potentially the last time that they're going to be able to compete in the UK? So I'll just go with them for that reason.
Okay. I mean, I have something about this match, and it'll come up for another match as well. But I won't spoil that just yet. I think this is more about the positioning in the card for me, because if this match is first, Edge and Rey Mysterio will win. However, I'm not sure it is going to be, even though we're covering it first on the list tonight. I think that having particularly Finn Balor getting the win, yes, they're the bad guys. Damian Priest seems to have quite a few links over here as well. I'm not sure why, but he's been in a lot of the promo stuff recently. Also doing a bit of sheep farming in Wales, because the stereotyping department at WWE have been going into full overdrive. But I think this is a Judgment Day win, and I think it might be early, maybe, but I think that they've teased this kind of Dominic Mysterio stuff for long enough now. So if it's going to happen, it's going to be this weekend. So I'm going Judgment Day. Andy?
I've got Edge and Rey Mysterio for this one. I feel that Edge getting kicked out, it's kind of like that grudge match thing. The thing about it is, though, even though I've picked them to win, I do agree with the Dominic stuff. I think that's probably been going on a little bit long now, so it's probably time to make the move on that. But I'm still saying Edge and Rey to win. So I'm a bit...
There's definitely a scenario whereby that Edge and Rey could win the match, and Dominic gets frustrated even more with that and flips out afterwards.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. If I had to pick something, that would be what I would pick. Because the Dominic thing's been going on a little bit too long now, so they need to pull the trigger. Otherwise, it's going to lose any major impact. So.
Okay. All right, so you are in the book. So Matt, to round us out on the first prediction, who are you going with?
I'm going to make it a 50-50 split. I've gone with Judgment Day. I think it's going to be... I don't think he's going to... we've been kind of, obviously, between us, I think at some point, we've all predicted something with Dominic at some point. What I think will happen is he'll cost them inadvertently in this one, because he said, I'll be in your corner, and he'll do something inadvertent, and then he'll get, a bollocking from his dad, and then at that point, he'll do some kind of... So it'll be a future kind of turn, but it'll be a kind of... He'll do something at some point within it to cost them the match, but an inadvertent one kind of thing, but a Judgment Day win.
Okay. So when I said, will we fare any better for being there in person, me and you have predicted the same. The people who aren't going to be in attendance have predicted the same. So this is lending very well straight into that theory. So right, before we move on to the second match on the card, we will just take a very, very quick break. So if you blink, you will miss it, and we will be right back.
Recording in progress.
See, you blinked. You missed it. We're back. We're back already. And we are diving straight into the second match on our list, which is the Intercontinental title match between Gunther, defending champion, and Sheamus. So this match, for me, could steal the entire show and could even be featured first on the card. Three words for this one. Big Lads Wrestling. These two absolute behemoths will be looking to take chunks out of each other this weekend, with the chops of Gunther going up against Sheamus' 10 beats of the Barroom. Gunther is definitely a man on the rise in WWE and has looked somewhat unstoppable since his call-up to SmackDown. However, Sheamus only needs the Intercontinental title to become a Grand Slam title holder in WWE. It's a title that he's put out there a lot that he wants. It's one of the ones that's kind of taken a long time to get him in the position, whether he's been on a different show, whether he's been too high, too low, whatever, on the card. It's seemingly taken a long time to get him to this position. But neither man, will be alone either, seeing as Gunther seemingly carries along Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus carrying along the Brawling Brutes. Is anybody going to play a role in that this weekend, do we think? Or are the two big lads going to take care of business themselves? I guess we'll find out. But the only other question is how much is Matt looking forward to seeing Ridge Holland in person once again?
Oh, God.
Do you know what, Matt? You can go first on this one if you want.
I've gone with Gunther for this. It just seems early to take it off him. You know I ummed and ahed a bit about it because obviously Sheamus, with kind of tenuous links to the UK kind of thing, but I was kind of like, it's a bit of a stretch, you know, even with that kind of thing. Whereas you could kind of, both of them, you could say, oh well, you know, but obviously with Gunther being NXT UK champion for however long and all that kind of thing, I think they'll go with him and stick with him and kind of continue to build him to be someone like that, and taking the Intercontinental Championship off him so quickly would seem counterproductive.
Well, interestingly, we have gone the same. So again, the people in attendance have picked the same. This, however, is the other one that I was talking about. When I think if this match is first, that's the only way that Sheamus is winning. So there is that option. But yeah, I have for the record gone for Gunther. Andy?
So, you know how you guys are in attendance and you've gone the same way? Just pop me down for Sheamus, yeah?
You're just going to do this, right? We're going to make Andy go first next because it's just out of pattern.
There's going to be a pattern with this. All of my predictions over the course of the evening will largely err towards the side of it's in the UK. And I think that the way to take things is to lean into that. And like you say, it might be tenuous, but I think they're going to lean more on the fact that Sheamus has never had it. So I think that might be the bigger pull.
Well, we'll see. I hope not, purely for the prediction stakes now. But yeah, so yeah, you are in the book, Sheamus, as predicted by Mr. Andy Cook. Sorry, defending champion Andy Cook. There you go. Paul, you want to round us out on this one?
We've got our second consecutive 50-50 split on this one, and I'm just gonna reiterate what Andy said there. Obviously, there's been big changes at the top, but it's still WWE. There's still, a lot of the same people there that like to sort of tinker around with the history books and stuff like that. And if they get a sniff of something that could be added to the the record books, don't think they won't take it with both hands. And if this is a case of like you said, Sheamus needs the Intercontinental Championship to complete the Grand Slam, I think we know what's happening.
Yeah, Gunther's going to win, you're right. So, I have put you down for Sheamus, again, officially, so 50-50 split on that one. I do, obviously, because I'd thought about it, depending on the match position, I do definitely take the point, and I think that Gunther, as a heel character particularly, would be probably better in the chase, maybe.
And
there is that option. I am worried about that, but I'm still going Gunther purely for the hot potato element.
As well, I think of the people that are going to challenge him, Sheamus is he's a legitimate threat, I'd say, for the sort of the way that he's been portrayed in the time that he's been there. It's not you can argue if he was to face someone like a Tyler Bate, then yeah, fair enough. You've got the argument that he's about half the size of it. Well, not anymore. So as long as he's been on the diet, hasn't he? But Sheamus is potentially bigger than him. Maybe I don't know, taller. He probably looks about the same from a build perspective, if not larger. So it's a legitimate threat, and I don't know. I think at least one, if not two, titles will change hands because they want to send the crowd home happy, don't they? So this is an easy one to go, I suppose.
Okay, well, possibly a little bit of foreshadowing there, but we shall see. All right, third match on the card. I've got the 6-woman tag match between Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka versus Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. And in probably, as we discussed earlier, the most shocking moment at SummerSlam, Bayley made her triumphant return, but wasn't alone. Dakota Kai has returned, bringing Io Sky with her after being called up from NXT, and they're looking to take control of the Raw Women's division. They immediately targeted Becky Lynch and Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, and Lynch seemingly turned babyface to assist her SummerSlam opponent in fending off the new group. But the numbers game did prove too much on the night, and Bayley and her new group had the final say. Since then, Becky's been out of action with a horrendous shoulder injury. The pitch, I don't know if we probably broached this last time maybe, but the pictures were gross. She effectively dislocated her shoulder mid-match. Really, really toughed it out to stick that final bit through as well. It's just, yeah. But yeah, since then, Asuka and Alexa Bliss have stepped into the breach and joined the EST of WWE in her battle. But which team takes control in Cardiff? Andy, seeing as I said you could go first, just you can go first.
I'd like us all to say it together, boys. So, come on, say it with me. There's absolutely no way Bayley's not winning this one, and her cohorts.
Okay, is that official? Am I putting you down for Bayley? And
official.
Tal?
Official.
Okay. Paul?
For the third game in a row, or third match in a row, I agree with Andy. They've only just put them together. I know you can say the same for the Belair team, but you can't bring Bayley back like after a year and a half out and beat her straight away. That just seems very counterintuitive.
And for the first time on this episode, we also agree on that one as well. So three picks.
Right, so Matt swoops in here and takes the other team for the points, doesn't he? Clearly. We all know how this works.
I'm not. I've gone, make it a full house, I've gone Bayley. Bayley Kai Sky.
Bayley Kai Sky, I like that. The reason why I put the control bit in the match write-up was that they've kind of teased that as a potential name for the group. They need to hurry up and get it out because it's a lot of effort going through the full list of names every time. And it would be a good name. I'd be okay with that. So yeah, that was nice and straightforward. Clean sweep. We have all gone for Bayley, Kai and Sky. Kai and Sky. They could hark back to the Kai and Ty days.
Indeed.
Perfect. You know when stuff just falls into place. So, the fourth match on the card is Riddle, or now, as we can call him, Matt Riddle. But although we do have to stick with Seth freaking Rollins. This is the match that we were supposed to get at SummerSlam, but now Matt Riddle's medically cleared. We're getting it in Wales instead. The war of words between these two has really escalated in recent weeks, and it's well documented that these two have had a few personal issues in the past. We talked about it on the build-up last time. It's revolving around the comments that Matt Riddle had made regarding Becky Lynch, the real-life wife of Seth Rollins. Well, wives certainly made it into the conversation this past week on Raw as well, and if you haven't seen it, go find it. Riddle remarked that Lynch was the man, the only man in that marriage, and then Rollins fired back with at least his wife hadn't taken the kids and left. Wow, that escalated real quick. They've gone to town with this one as well, because there's been a bit of footage of them fighting in the car park that wasn't filmed on WWE cameras. Not telling me that wasn't set up still, but
I was watching that and I was like, yeah, I've filmed stuff with my iPhone. It always comes out in great HD quality video that you can watch. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. If it wasn't WWE's, then maybe it was ABC's or whoever else's thing, as it were.
The other thing, I think the main thing that you couldn't see cameramen in the car park that they were fighting in because it had been filmed from above and zoomed in. So basically, you couldn't see what was going on in the car park. So, but yeah, they're making an effort with this one. So I'm quite happy that it's almost like they're trying to add a little bit of realism back to it because they're playing on the fact that these two have had beef for a while. Again, has match of the night contender written all over it, but will just entirely depend on, I guess, where the line is. Is like, is it real? Is it not? Are we going to get them going into business for themselves? Are we not? But surely that just shows it's well put together if it's leaving people asking questions. But who's going to leave Cardiff with their hand raised? So I'll dive in on this one. Straight up, Matt Riddle. I think that, again, we've talked about this before on the podcast. A loss isn't really gonna hurt Seth Rollins too much. Riddle definitely needs it. He's starting to lose that little bit of momentum, having been separated from Randy Orton now for such a period of time. So I think it's probably more important to let him get the win. And if it isn't a win, then he definitely needs to have the upper hand by the time he's left. But I don't think they're going to turn him heel either. So I've purely got Matt Riddle to win the match. Paul?
Yes, I too have picked Mr. Riddle for this one. Just briefly before we go to the next person, this was covered on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. That in a live event, they had the poster up for WWE coming into town, and they'd obviously misread how one of the guys' names was pronounced. As they said that scheduled to appear was Seth Franklin Rollins, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, Riddle to win this one, like you said, he's kind of losing a bit of steam, and I just, for some reason, I just think that if they could do it in a way where, if they could start early in the afternoon and go into the early evening, they'd have him either come out or win the match at 20 minutes past 4, just to see if anyone picks up on it.
Or maybe he might win the match in 4 minutes and 20 seconds, regardless.
Oh, that! Exactly.
Well, you say it was steam that he's losing. I'm not sure it's the smoke. Anyway, Matt, do you want to go?
I've gone with Rollins. For that one.
So not only do we have a difference in opinion, it's a difference between the attendees. So we're not going to get a matching score. Okay. Any particular reason?
I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that he's more of a crowd favourite than Riddle, and like the whole kind of Steph freaking. Even though I hate that kind of side of it, I think a lot of people like the character at the moment, and that's a bit of a kind of, because obviously the moment it's gone, kind of more against that. Yeah, so just more of a kind of nod to the fans kind of thing, I think.
Okay, Andy, to round us out.
I am with Matt on this one. I have also got Seth freaking Rollins winning. I was very much with you when you were saying that Seth Rollins can afford a loss. Matt Riddle will benefit a lot more from a win, but I'm also very much with Matt. I honestly think that this UK show is just going to go for the biggest bang they can get. They want to tear the roof off with this one. I feel that they're trying to make a bit of a, like, potentially, if they do it right, they could make like a real cornerstone sort of event with this, and the way to do it is to pander to those elements. So, like Matt was saying, Seth's potentially that bigger draw, so having him win's probably going to do a lot with the crowd.
Okay, I've got you down for Rollins, so that's that one sorted. Just on a couple of things that you said there, I'm just going to slightly go off on a tangent. You mentioned blowing the roof off. It has been confirmed that the roof will be closed on the stadium on Saturday. Not because it's due to absolutely piss down, which it is, but mainly because they've gone for rigging from the stadium rather than having pillars to obstruct anybody's view, which I'm quite happy about. And the other thing as well about making it a bit of a cornerstone, what do we think? Like, is it a one-off? Is it because it's 30 years since SummerSlam '92, or are we actually going to get one of these every year now?
I don't know. Maybe not every year, but you'd like to think that they'd leave it less time than 30 years before coming back to do another one. There's also the problem of like oversaturation. You don't want to. I mean, they already come over twice a year anyway for the tours, so it's not as if we've not seen the wrestlers live in person for forever. Like literally, it's not like it's literally been 30 years since they've been over in any guise. But at the end of the day, it'll the one thing that'll dictate whether they come back again will be the Yankee Dollar. If they set like ridiculous gate receipt records and stuff like that, then they'd be stupid not to try and do it as often as will dictate. Well,
based on what they've then taken away for staging and such, I've seen sort of rumblings of the 69,000 mark for like a capacity, but I think they're about 4,000 short of that. It came off the back.
They'll paper it. They'll just give it to kids in the local area, won't they?
Well, there's rumblings that this is why Ticketmaster haven't yet released the tickets, because it gives them license to then move people around. And as we well know from WWE Live in Leeds, we had tickets for pretty much the back row because we were just being cheap, because that's how we roll. And we got moved to the first set of the first tiered section, didn't we? So
yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, you never know, Matt. We might end up a little bit closer yet, but we'll find out on Saturday. If not, bring your binoculars.
I think the timing's interesting because the timing is kind of in line with like the NFL games, and like listening to podcasts in America. A lot of people have enjoyed not everybody enjoys it, but they like the fact that the NFL games are on early. Kind of like it's like you wake up, NFL games on. Now I know that a premium live event or whatever is a bit longer than an NFL game, not by much, but you know. So that might work well, and if that goes well over in the States, that you can watch the wrestling and then kind of have an afternoon and go out with your family and stuff like that instead of like having to wait till late, then people might be a little bit more kind of, all right, okay, then we'll do this more often if we get it once a year. It might get rotated around Europe as well, so it might be a little bit more kind of following the NFL model of like, they perhaps put one in Germany or something like that to kind of fix in with the stats. So it might be 1 year in Britain, 1 year in Germany, and however else kind of thing.
They've painted themselves into a corner though now, because they now have to find exclusively places that have the castle next door.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, like, let's be honest, they're not exactly going to be short of takers, are they? And if they get into a bidding war of people that actually start, applying to have the Europe-based pay-per-view, then, you've got Munich's got a massive stadium. There's a couple of like massive ones in Milan. Well, not a couple, but there's the big one in Milan. There's Madrid, Barcelona. You've got plenty.
When I was talking about it with Sarah, and when I say when I was talking about it with her, I mean I was probably talking at her about it. Let's be fair. She then did say, "Why have they not held it in Germany? That seems like loads more central for like all of Europe." And I'm like thinking, I have to drive to Cardiff on Saturday morning. I don't want to drive to Germany. Anyway, by the by.
Ironically, you could probably fly to Germany quicker than you could drive to Cardiff.
Anyway, we like I say, we digress somewhat. We do have 2 more matches to cover. So we will dive back in to the SmackDown Women's title match, which is Liv Morgan going in as champion against Shayna Baszler. Let's be fair, this story is still all about Ronda Rousey. Since losing the title to Liv, Ronda's continued to act like an entitled bitch, for want of a better word. I mean, I wouldn't say that to her face. But she's gone too far with submissions. She's attacked officials. She got herself suspended and paid the fine and blah, 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 blah. Ronda Rousey. That's all it's been. Very little mention of either the champion, really, or her challenger this weekend. Yes, Shayna Baszler did win a gauntlet match to earn her place at Cardiff, but you can't argue that win wasn't straight out of left field. She has been nowhere near the top of any women's card since the Thunderdome days, really, where she held the tag titles with Nia Jax. But she is or was part of the self-proclaimed 4 horsewomen of MMA, a group also containing one Ronda Rousey. Does that mean we're going to see Ronda in Cardiff? We'll see. But yeah, can Liv hold on to the title? Will Shayna Baszler take it off her to set up some kind of Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey feud, which would probably go down pretty well? Or do we just is it just bad guys going to be doing bad guy shit this weekend when it comes to this one? How do we see it going? Andy, you can take this one first.
Straight away, Shayna.
Okay.
It's it seems super random, and I like random. I do think there's. I mean, at the end of the day, like you say, you're never going to get away from Ronda Rousey being in and around this sort of area. But it's just so random that it's like, yeah, why not? Yeah, do it. So, yeah, I like random, so I'm going random.
Right. You're in the book for Shayna. I have gone for Liv Morgan, and I think she'll either win or retain, I guess, by DQ. I can see Ronda Rousey turning up, but I think it's going to be more Shanna Hannigan based as opposed to a clean win, which is a bit annoying because I don't think they've given Liv the best start as champion. She seems to be a fairly weak champion to me at this point, and I find it strange. And the thing, like going back to the Triple H thing, Liv was kind of seemingly one of his sort of, the people that he was pushing for. But then again, Shayna Baszler was a pretty decent NXT Women's Champion under his watch too. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be clean, and I have gone for Liv to retain. So we'll see what happens. Matt, do you want to go next?
I've gone with Liv as well. It just seems a bit early to take the title off her, and Baszler was a good NXT champion, but I don't think she kind of fits into like the main roster kind of thing. NXT kind of relied on in-ring kind of stuff as opposed to promos are shocking is where I'm going kind of thing. So I just don't think she's going to take things forward particularly well, unless they kind of create the 4 horsewomen of MMA, but then that would be a bit difficult, being as both of the others have been released, and at least one of them are in AEW now, so that might be a little bit difficult. So yeah.
Okie dokie. You're in the book, so Paul, to possibly take the deciding vote.
Yeah, Liv to retain for me as well. Like you said, it just seems as if she's had a bit of a, dare we say, the Big E treatment. Like he won the title, didn't really have anything sort of massive from a storyline perspective as soon as he'd done it. Yeah, she needs a bit of an oomph. She needs a bit of a pick me up to get her sort of like kick-started in the title picture for me. So plus taking it off of this early for a woman who's been nowhere near, like you said, the title picture would be a bit of a swerve, bro.
But then, like you say, she needs a bit of an oomph. Shayna Baszler is currently not that person to kind of add any kind of credibility to the. Right, not been harsh on Shayna. I think possibly she would even admit herself she's been nowhere near that. To say, like I said earlier, the top of the women's card for a while. So yeah, okay. So that does tip it 3-1 in favour of Liv Morgan. So even though she's had a bit of a stifling run so far, it seems that we are still in support. So, this is it. The big one. The first main event held in a stadium in the UK in 30 years. Roman Reigns defending his undisputed WWE Universal Championship against almost hometown hero by about a few hundred miles, Drew McIntyre. A few hundred miles, different country, etc., etc. But
Celtic still counts.
WWE do have the potential to release a pop so loud it would be heard across the pond without the use of the network at this stage. Am I over-egging this? You're damn right I am. I cannot wait for this match. You regular viewers that for Getting Over will have seen the Drew McIntyre belt hung behind me. At the time that he won it, absolutely made up that yes, even though he's Scottish, the fact that we had our first British champion after all these years and all the rest of it. So I am very excited for this one. But these guys do have previous beef dating back to the Survivor Series a couple of years ago, and they faced each other as the top champions on their respective brands. Roman Reigns did win on that night thanks to some interference from Jey Uso. And no doubt that the Usos will be in Wales this weekend, along with Sami Zayn, who is apparently related now to the rest of the bloodline. But surely they won't pull a screwy finish with Drew almost on home soil, will they? What do we think?
I'm really torn on this one. I keep going back and forth, and apparently I'm not the only one. Apparently the creative team are doing similar. I mean, is it ridiculous to think that they would sort of pull the trigger after what? Over 2 years of him as being the guy.
Exactly 2 years. I see today. I'm sure it's exactly 2 years.
I want to say Drew so bad. So I'm gonna.
Straight off the bat, that is a big call. Right, okay. You're in. Andy?
So I know that we're all in the camp of Roman's got to keep it until he can go up against the Dwayne and all of that. But, as I've been saying all evening, WWE have an opportunity to make a massive impact with this show. A huge impact. And Roman Reigns winning this match, standard par for the course. Drew McIntyre winning this match, roof gone, walls gone, the stadium gone, Cardiff gone. And
just a smoking crater.
Just a crater.
And then just Drew holding the title.
Drew holding the title in one hand and a claymore in the other. And I honestly think
it's because he's put his big sword in the ground and it's just gone.
And I honestly think I know where the smart money lies. I know WWE loves certain things, and I know what I should be saying. But Drew McIntyre to win.
Okay.
I think it's the biggest impact that they could have right now.
Matt?
I've gone with Roman Reigns. It's just like the ultimate kind of thing to do, isn't it? Kind of go, well, we could do the big kind of homecoming, all that kind of thing. But actually, what we're going to do is this. And it is the ultimate wrestling promoters, writers, storytellers move, isn't it? That kind of thing. It could be the big fake out. It could be, but yeah, I think I'm going to go with Reigns. I think.
Okay. So again, well documented that I am a Drew McIntyre fan. Made up to see the fact that he's going to be in the main event of the thing we're going to. So clearly, I'm going to pick him to win. But also regular listeners will also know that I am very much of the opinion it is going to be the Dwayne versus the Reigns at WrestleMania next year, and he ain't going to lose it, unfortunately, as much as I would love him to. But this for listeners that might head on over to the football podcast as well, you will also know that I like to pick my home team to win, to lose sometimes. So this is kind of like the same theory. So I am picking Roman Reigns, but if Drew does win, clearly not going to be disappointed. So it's a win-win. I'll either have a point, or I'll have probably lost my voice by the time that it's all said and done. So I am going for Roman Reigns to win, which does give us a 50-50 in the main event as well. A good smattering across the predictions board there. So fingers crossed we will have a defining champion and see if it's Andy again, if he can hold on to it. But yeah, that is it. We are all done and dusted. There only remains for me to go and pack my bag for Cardiff and prepare for the journey. It will be epic. It is going to be awesome, and I'm probably going to spend way too much money on absolute cat. Any other business guys? Anyone got anything else they want to mention?
Nothing from me apart from just have a whale of a time, lads. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic event, and I'm sure you'll have lots of fun.
Thank you very much. And
I obviously I will try and watch live via either the WWE Network or the BT Sport app through my televisual set. So.
Paul's after some free BT supply after this podcast, mate, Paul. So, yeah.
No, I'm a fully paid up member, mate, so, you know.
Again, just before we go, I will drop a mention for the pop contest. So if you would like a free Alexa Bliss pop, if you would like a chance to win one of those, get yourself on over to YouTube and subscribe to the CookieCast channel. If that is everything, I will just thank you, gentlemen, for joining me once again, and we shall see you after Clash at the Castle. Thanks very much.
So there you go. What do you think of that? Another premium live event talked about and in the bag. If you have got predictions for this one, send them to us. You can jump onto the website. It's cookiecast.com. There you can find a multitude of different ways to get in touch with us. Send us your predictions. If you haven't subscribed yet, you are not in with a chance to win the subscriber competition. So click that button now. Also, why not get a friend and family member to do it? Friend or family member. Get them to subscribe. Double, triple, quadruple your chances. Also, like, share, and comment. Do everything you want to do with this podcast. Send it to a friend. Send it to a family member. Send it everywhere. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.